Hello there, everyone. This is Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and welcome back to the Mad Science Lab podcast. Today we are back in the lab, continuing on with the Studs and Duds series, and here to break down his studs and duds is Ahaan Rungta. Ahaan, nice to have you. How's it going?
Going awesome. It's the dog days of summer. It's June. It's hot outside, and it's hot on the fantasy football draft boards. I see underdog ADP moving almost every day. See some of the sharps posting their drafts online, and it gives you the itch to start seeing which players to fade or to buy into. And I see you have on the screen someone that I very much want to fade. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Oh, is he? See, I don't. I load up the four graphics, the cards on the graphics here on each player, but I don't look as to whether they're your stud or dud beforehand because I don't want to have an argument in my head against them. So I was actually under the impression I kind of figured he would be your stud. Wow. Okay, so you caught me off guard there. That's good. I like where we're at. We're just gonna go. All right. So his dud here. We have Tua Tung, the name I can't pronounce, Tua T. Rushing yards, he had 70. Would have expected a little more, but with, all the injuries last year, it was limited. 3,548 rushing yards, 25 TDs, 8 interceptions. I feel like half those touchdowns came in one game. 337.17 fantasy points, 18.3 per game. Finished as QB 15 despite missing half the season. He currently sits 91 overall in ADP, according to Fantasy Pros. That is QB 11. That's a range I really like him in. He seems to be going the top three range there. You have the Mahomes, Allen, Hurts. Then there's that range of 5 or 6 quarterbacks. He seems to be going in a pretty solid tier 3 here with Watson, Prescott himself, Cousins, Daniel Jones, and Geno Smith. I kind of like this tier. I find that after Lawrence goes off the board, the run on QB stops and you get those 6 that I said there? You get those 6 dropping like right off the map. Nobody wants them. And I get he's your dud and I see all the reasons I'm sure why you're going to make him your dud, but I like that range of QB. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm targeting Tua. I like that range. So why is he the guy that you want to avoid in that range?
Tua is one of those guys that can give you, obviously, like you said, it feels like his touchdowns, half of them came in one game. Obviously, he could give you those ceiling games, of course, with the Tyreek Hills of the world and the Jalen Waddles of the world. I would argue maybe the best 1-2 wide receiver core in the league. And with the Mike McDaniel system over in Miami, this rate of getting wide receivers that are just wide open all the time should continue. But like you said, the rushing yards just not going to be there. And as they continue to nurture his health going forward, they're obviously face of the franchise right now. They want him to be healthy. There's no way they're going to just up his running game any more than it already is, right? Like he's had injuries, he's had concussions, dangerous ones at that. So I don't see that going up. And then on top of that, you look at the game logs from last year. When did he have those stealing games? So he gets 6 passing touchdowns in week 2 against Baltimore, and that was the peak. He also had a streak of 3 games against Detroit, against Chicago, and then against Cleveland, where he had 3 passing touchdowns each game. And you kind of think, is that maybe the ceiling? And I think those ceiling outcomes are just going to be less next year. Yeah. You look at some of the quarterbacks, like you said, that go around that range. Someone like
here, just a sec. I can bring it up for you. I've got it. I just got to bring up the other screen. Right there.
This is my first time in the lab. I get to see you actually cook up with these screens.
Yeah, there you go. That is his range. Like I said, it's Watson, Prescott, Tua, Cousins, Daniel Jones, Geno, and Anthony Richardson in that range. So
Yeah, and you consider what Miami just did this offseason. Obviously, they bettered the defense a little bit, but they also draft Devon Achane as a running back who is a perfect fit for this system. Just the kind of back that Miami will want to use, especially, I believe, in the red zone. So you kind of look at some of the names that go after him, such as Daniel Jones, who was a top 10 quarterback by points per game last year, and you see his improved wide receiver, or his improved pass catching core, and you see the fact that Dayball is going to continue being a progressive offense. And I think that Giants offense will be a lot better next year. So I kind of love Daniel Jones over Tua there. And even you look at a guy like Geno Smith. Seattle continues to be more pass heavy, and they draft Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think that offense is going to be nasty going forward. So, I, for the ceiling and for the fact that Tua can obviously also give you those 1 touchdown, 2 interception, 3 interception games, I just don't see the value in taking Tua damn near top 10 here.
See, I'm of a split opinion here. As far as dynasty goes, I am completely out. Like, he is one hit away from being dead on your roster. Redraft, like I said, I'm not out or in on him. He's just in the range where I prefer probably Dak and Jones, Cousins, Geno. I could probably prefer him least out of that little group there, maybe over Watson. It's just in that range. I will take a shot on him because if I miss, I only have to eat him for 1 year. But you are right. His rushing upside completely gone. Like, it is very possible he may be just flat out tethered to the line of scrimmage. Like, I can't see them letting him run at all. Is that your feedback or mine? Are you
Uh,
hearing that?
not mine. I don't
Oh,
think.
that's weird. I wonder what that was. All right. Anyways, like I said, his rushing floor is gone. He may not leave the line of scrimmage. So I get your point there completely. Next up, dealer's choice. Who would you like to bring up?
We could just go through the positions, talk about running back.
All right. Another guy I'm interested to see where you fall on, if you're on the same side as me. We have Antonio Gibson, 546 rushing yards, 353 through the air, 5 touchdowns, 183.84 fantasy points in full PPR. That's good for 11.06 per game. Finished as RB27. Currently sits 98th overall, which brings him in at RB. Actually, he's dropped. I printed these a few days ago. He's dropped to 104th overall, RB 36. Is he a stud or dud for you?
Even at the RB27 price, absolute smash for me. Antonio Gibson, I just cannot get over how much of a stud he is. So you look at this Washington offense and what has changed since last year. This pass catching core, pretty much the same. And you look at the quarterback position, you go from the Carson Wentz slash Taylor Heineke slash Sam Howell roulette to this, we're going into the season with Sam Howell mindset. And I tweeted this a few days ago that the Washington Commanders might be the most boring team in the NFL where you can find real fantasy value. And you look at across the board on this offense, obviously the main difference here is offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy. Chiefs running backs drew 112 targets in each of the last 2 seasons with Eric Bieniemy involved in calling the plays. So I think the biggest beneficiary of this is Antonio Gibson, someone who ranked top 12 among running backs in target share, yards per route run, and catch rate last season. And you sort of look at what Terry McLaurin can do, what Jahan Dotson can do, and the different skill sets they bring. And both of those guys could have ceiling games as well. But given how safe Antonio Gibson's floor feels, especially since the only other major running back in this depth chart is Brian Robinson, who, great story and all, but just was not good last year. He was not a good running back, not efficient, not a big pass catcher. Gibson is that guy. I can't get over him when he's healthy. This RB 36 ish price is an absolute steal. I think he could have week to week high end RB2 upside.
I am right on board with you this time. 98th overall, I was all in at that price, but he's what I say was down to 104th. That's even lower. At 104, I'm going to have a ton of shares. I've even tried to acquire him in some dynasty leagues. I like Bieniemy in there. I've never been like Brian Robinson. Okay, but he seems like he's just a guy. Then they draft Chris Rodriguez, who seems like he's a less talent, well, maybe more talented version of Brian Robinson. I just, I You're right. This is an underrated offense. It kind of feels like the Tennessee of the NFC, except a little bit more exciting. Yeah, I can't argue with you at all. I'm going to have a lot of Antonio Gibson at that price. All right, that's an easy one. There's no disagreement from me at all. I love it. Who do you want on the next one?
Looks like we're maybe talking about wide receiver next because we've got
Sure.
a polarizing offense to talk about here.
Yes, we do. And the member of that polarizing offense is Mike Williams, 895 receiving yards. It surprised me how low it was, but injury. 4 touchdowns, 164.5 fantasy points in PPR, 13.58 per game. Finished as wide receiver 32. Currently sits 57th overall in Fantasy Pros ADP, bringing him in at he also has dropped 63 overall right now, sitting as wide receiver 24. Why are you out on Mike Williams?
It's simple for this. It's twofold. Number one, I'm a Clemson fan, right? Mike Williams, I love that dude. But we know who he is. He's about to be 29 years old. We know exactly who he is. You know what the Chargers did first thing in the draft this year? They drafted a younger, more polished, I'll say, version of Mike Williams. And Mike Williams right now listed as a wide receiver 2 on the Chargers depth chart, but I'm just not interested in believing that because I think Quentin Johnston's going to take over that wide receiver 2 role very quickly. We'll talk about Quentin Johnston just a little bit because spoiler alert, he's a buy. Number 7 in athleticism score in his class, just a great athletic profile all around. And he wasn't a one-trick pony. I think he gets a bad rep for being a body catcher or whatnot, but 89th percentile in college yards per reception and 76th percentile in college target share. So he earns his targets, and I think he will do so in this offense as well. For Mike Williams specifically, you add in the fact that Keenan Allen spent a lot of last year hurt. And when he was playing, Keenan Allen was still a major part of this offense. Obviously, Justin Herbert, a really, really good quarterback who can window shop, and he can find those, inches windows, and was finding Keenan Allen several times towards the end of the year. This Chargers offense is going to continue to be pass heavy. They're a progressive offense, like I mentioned earlier with the Giants. So, yes, Mike Williams will be a part of this pass heavy offense, but I think most of those targets are going to go to Keenan Allen, and those red zone targets will be earned by Quentin Johnston.
I agree with much of what you said. My answer of why he's a fade for me is twofold. If you look at the screen, here's the receivers going in his range. I would rather have most of them: Hopkins, McLaurin, Ridley, DJ Moore, Pittman, Godwin, Judy, Watson, and Kirk. Yep, I think I would at that ADP. I would pretty much rather have all of them over Mike Williams, and that's at 63. If you drop down to the aforementioned Quentin Johnston at 118, 60 picks later almost, and look at this range here: Juju, Michael Thomas, the suspended Jameson Williams, Bateman, Moore, OBJ, Lazard. Like if I'm taking excluding Keenan Allen from this conversation, if I'm taking one of the 2 other Charger receivers, it is going to be Quentin Johnston at a significant discount. Like look what's going here compared to what you'd have to pass up on to draft Mike Williams. So,
and as a Patriots fan who has loved Juju for a long time and was sad that he was on the Steelers and not my team, why is Juju going ahead of Quentin Johnston? You want players in good offenses that are pass first and will catch red zone passes. So I don't get it.
Well, I think it's the same with. I noticed some of these ADPs have started to change, especially on Fantasy Pros. We're getting later in the summer. I know it's still hardcore degenerate time, but we're getting closer to the casual season. And as the casuals creep back in, the ADPs of guys like Cooks, Schuster, Michael Thomas, OBJ, they're going up because they have name brand recognition. Whereas unless you've really been around for dynasty season and you know all about the rookies, like a lot of the people in my home league and my family leagues have no freaking clue who Quentin Johnston is, other than he was taken in the first round. Know nothing about him. So I think that's why you're seeing him in that range, and that's why Juju's going ahead of him. Even Gabe Davis, I like the players a little more up here, but in the range he's going, I'd much rather have Quentin Johnston than Mike Williams. All righty, we can bring up your final guy, if I can find him. Oh, that would be a guy I really loved going into the draft, Sam Laporta. As you can see on the stats, he is a rookie, so he has no stats from last season. Currently going off the board as tight end one, no, it's 166 overall. Excuse me. That would make him tight end. Where the heck is he? Tight end 22, which is surprising. I wasn't really expecting that. Sam Laporte is someone I really like the landing spot. I had him as my tight end too. I'm a Michael Mayer guy. So I thought, that landing spot's great. This is, as far as rookie drafts go, this is someone I could get in the middle of the second round in rookie drafts. I love it. He started creeping up to the 111, 112 in there with Kincaid, and I was out on both of these guys. Same goes with Kincaid for redraft season now. They both look like they're pretty high up there in ADP. I'm not sure. So what's 166? What's the math on that? 13th round, 14th round, roughly?
Roughly.
So it's a later round pick. I don't know. I think if I got to take a late round dart throw, I'd rather someone besides Sam Laporta. Not a huge fan. I know he's on your studs list, so maybe you can convince me otherwise.
So I think this is, yeah, I think this is the part where we finally have a strong disagreement, because you said you're a Michael Mayer guy. So you take player A, right? Player A is a bottom quartile athlete, and he just got drafted to an offense that's kind of uncertain, right? In Vegas with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback for now. And then whether you look at it for redraft purposes or for the long haul, that's the Las Vegas offense is just not one you can confidently say, yeah, this is going to be a pass first offense, or yeah, this is going to be a decent offense, for 1 year or for 3 years. Then you look at Sam Laporta, a top quartile athlete across the board, with a top tier 40-yard dash, a high catch radius and all that. And at tight end, what I just like to do is I like to chase athletic profiles, right? And you see this a lot with people chasing Chigakonkwo. And the thing with Sam Laporta that he has on Chigakonkwo, even though I love Chigakonkwo, is that Sam Laporta, for redraft purposes, is on a team where he would get immediate opportunity. Obviously, they draft Jahmyr Gibbs, which shocked the world, early first round, but Jameson Williams suspended. Marvin Jones, he's like 50 years old. I like the dude, but he's just not the player that he was in his prime. And you look at the rest of the depth chart, and it's Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is in the conversation for wide receiver 1 overall. But then who? Khalif Raymond? Josh Reynolds? No, thank you. Brock Wright and James Mitchell and Shane Zylster were catching touchdowns last year. Like, let that sink in. I think Sam Laporta is the best tight end on this team, and eventually, probably before Jameson Williams returns, probably the second or third best pass catcher on this team, on a team that I think is going to continue to be pass heavy. They didn't address the defense enough for me to think, yeah, you know what, they're going to play from positive game scripts all season long or anything crazy like that. So Jared Goff's good enough to get the job done. I think better than Jimmy Garoppolo by a significant margin. So I love Sam Laporta, and if he drops to this tight end 22 range, as you mentioned, I love him at that price.
Yeah, we suck at disagreeing, because this was our big disagreement for the show, and it's my tight end 2 for rookies. I love the landing spot. I love that Jameson Williams is gone for 6 games. I completely agree with everything you say. At tight end 22 price in redraft, I'm probably going to have some late shares of them. On the teams where I miss out on an early tight end, I'll probably, spam tight end late. So I don't disagree. Mine was more, I think I got take lock on Laporta there. I hadn't quite adjusted from rookie season, where I was starting to fade him, not on anything but his price. I don't like using first round rookie picks on a tight end unless it's even Kyle Pitts. I didn't want to do it, but like they never pay off. Maybe Brock Bauer next year will, but him and Kincaid got to the point where I was just out. But you're right. Tight end 22. What's that? 175 overall on Fantasy Pros. I'm not out on him. I don't know how many shares I'll have on him, but he's definitely someone where he'll be on my board late, in a Scott Fishbowl where you need to have a couple of tight ends here. I'll probably take a couple of shares on him. Alrighty. Let's take a look here. Even like the one right below him is Michael Mayer, who I like more, but I think that's for dynasty. If you look at this redraft board, the people go in his range: Juwan Johnson, Irv Smith, Gerald Everett, Dawson Knox, Mike Gesicki, Michael Mayer, Hayden Hurst, Zach Ertz, and Hunter Henry. I think we'd both take Laporta over pretty much any of those guys. Yes?
I just don't understand how someone can look at Irv Smith and say, yeah, this is a player I want to take at what tight end 18 over a high draft pick in Sam Laporta, who could be the second pass catching option on the team, right?
Oh,
Like, just because he's connected to Joe Burrow, it doesn't mean he's going to get 10 targets a game.
That was the answer right there. Cincinnati Bengals. It's nothing else besides the fact we did this last year with CJ Uzama and the year before with, what was it? Was it Hayden Hurst then, or was he already gone? I don't remember.
Hayden Hurst this year and then CJ Uzama the previous year.
Oh, that's what it was. There's too many of them. They never work out. They've all got muddled up to me. All right, Ahaan. Well, thank you for joining me. Would you like to take a minute here to tell everyone where they can find you and your work?
Really appreciate you for having me on, Aaron. You can find me at Ahaan Rungta on Twitter. Throughout this NFL offseason, I'm doing some betting stuff with Player Profiler, especially in the cross-sport community. So I bet on basketball, baseball, and football. And as the football season approaches, I'll be doing a lot of drafts and talking about football futures bets. We've got some content on Player Profiler coming up on some team futures as well as player futures. So look out for that. It's the dog days of summer, but football very soon if you're in the lab like I am all the time. So that's where you can find me.
I've got nothing else to do but football. The Detroit Tigers were the hometown team here, and they've crashed and burned. That ship's died, so we'll be moving back into football mode here. So alrighty, well, this has been Studs and Duds with Ahaan Rungta. Once again, I am Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and this has been the Mad Science Lab podcast. Thanks, Ahaan, for joining me. Thank you all for watching.